Howdy ho guys, and welcome to the Bojinjin vlog. Still a great day today, hope you're having a great day yourself. In this entry I wanted to talk about a very controversial topic actually. Along, again, as usual, along the lines of my own realizations that I have in my life. I want to talk about the spiritual path for spiritual people, right? So it's an interesting world we live in, right? Watch any of my older videos or watch any other spiritual teachers' videos, and you get the idea that the world at the moment is very, deprived of spiritual intelligence, right? At least, that's the message that you get from watching either myself or other people, right? And I agree. A lot of the world is, spiritually deprived. A lot of people are spiritually deprived, and it means that they're disconnected from that essential essence. They're disconnected from that guiding light, let's just say, that gives them a bigger purpose in life. A lot of people just go through their entire day, their days just grinding, just surviving, coping, or numbing themselves with escapism or drugs or whatever it is, sex even, but and a lot of those people don't have an intuitive knowing of something deeper within them that gives them the ability to heal themselves and to love themselves, right? And to have perspective over their lives, and thus lead to peace, right? That's great, right? But the thing is, right, that we have, a lot of people who, like I said, they're just grinding away, and they don't really have a connection with source or God or whatever you want to call it. But then there are also the people who are actually sensitive, right? I'm talking about give them whatever label, my kind of people, right? Our people, right? The indigos, the spirit, the highly sensitive people, whatever, the crystals, whatever you want to call them, right? The hippies, spiritual people, right? There's those kinds of people, right? And a lot of those people have spiritual awakenings. A lot of those people, the kind of more spiritual people, they're the ones who have the spiritual awakenings early on. And they find the spirituality, and they're like, oh my God, I found the complete answer to everything in my life. I now understand why everything in my life has never had a meaning, and now I have a meaning to my life, right? Right. And that's great, right? Spiritual awakening is amazing. Let's just be honest, right? But there is a problem that, we as spiritual people need to come to terms with, right? Which is I don't know what to call this. Teal Swan calls it spiritual bypassing. Matt Kahn is also, who's another spiritual teacher. Matt Kahn has also commented on this. It's this kind of spiritual escapism. It's basically the spiritual escapism, which is kind of a disorder that sensitive people, more spiritual people have, right? Which involves basically once you've had your spiritual awakening, you then become overly spiritual. You become someone who denounces everything that is physical. You learn that everything is essentially a hologram. Everything is kind of a manifestation of the higher dimensional realms, right? Of possibility. You learn about the law of attraction. You learn about all of these things. And you become you almost think that you're larger than life. You're this physical life is an illusion anyway, right? I know much better than that, right? And that's a trap that we all fall into. This is a trap that all of us fall into. I fell into this trap, and it's a part of the spiritual journey. I dare say, right? Every spiritual person needs to go through this, right? So, essentially, we have this problem as spiritual people, right? And just to further clarify, or to summarize, there are two types of people in the world. You could like organize people loosely into two categories, right? You have the the hustlers, right? The people who are grounded in the trivia of life, the minutiae of life. The people who like are very materialistic. They're very pragmatic in a physical sense. They're very kind of everything to them is based in reality. Like it's about making money and starting a family and like doing this and like going on holiday and traveling and all of this stuff, right? The person who like is mostly focused on the physical plane, right? And then you have the dreamers, right? And these are the spiritual people like you and myself, right? I'm a dreamer. People who like tend to lose themselves in like these grandiose like visualizations of things, that are kind of abstract from reality. Like I love video games. I love loads of different media. I have an active imagination. I've always had an active imagination, and like those kinds of people are spiritually inclined. Like we are, our focus is higher up in our chakra system, I should say, whereas like the other people are more focused physically, right? And those two types of people, right? They have different set paths in life. They have different kind of types of paths in life, right? So there's a tendency, of course, like I've already addressed this in other videos, but like, there's a tendency for the type A kind of personality. The kind of more like realistic, materialistic kind of person. They're more focused obviously on the material, right? Whereas we dreamers are more focused on like the spiritual and like ideas and like paradigms, things like that, patterns, meaning, and there is a tendency for like people belonging to these different camps like to get stuck, right? Like we become dogmatic, we become like overly like zealous about these different things, right? And in order for someone to truly self-actualize, we must come to embrace both, and I think this is very key. I think this is a universal truth, you could say, right? And the type A kind of person, like the hustler, the materialistic person, the one who like wants to like get their life in order physically, they have like very physically oriented goals, like even from an early age, right? The people who get out there and attack the world physically, their life path tends to look like, right? They start off like very physically oriented, right? And like for the first half of their lives, they're very physically oriented. They're aiming to make lots of money. They're aiming to like get to reach financial stability. They're looking to like shape the perfect career, or business or what have you. They want to get their relationship in check. They want to get maybe a family if they're looking to do that. And so like they're doing all of these things that are obviously you could call this like the physical component to personal development, right? I like to call this practical development as distinct from conscious development, which is like the spiritual stuff, right? But the usual stuff like earning money, making like running a business, getting into great relationships, traveling, furthering your knowledge in a physical sense. These people spend the first half of their lives like doing all of that stuff, right? But then, like, somewhere along the line, like maybe like when they're in their late 20s or when they're in their 30s, when like, they've already got like most of the physical stuff sorted, right? They start to then question the meaning of their whole lives, right? And so like after all of the kind of the hustling that they've done, like then they start to look towards the divine, right? Then they start to look towards the spiritual, right? And thus a typical pattern that you see with these kinds of people, materialistic people, is that like they forge and then like they tend to become religious, towards the end of their life. So like, they join some major world faith, and they become religious, right? And their religion that they choose, or the spirituality that they choose, which tends to be externally derived, right? Because they innately are materialistic. Their strength is in the material, and so like they look outside of themselves for something to grace them with spirituality, right? Spiritual insights, you can say. It's spiritual wisdom. So and that's what those people's lives look like, right? But for the spiritual person, for the second type of person, the dreamer, type B, we have, granted we have a spiritual awakening kind of part of our lives, which tends to happen fairly early, right? If not in your teens, if not even in I guess a lot of kids who are like, crystal children or rainbow children, they're probably already coming in with this expanded consciousness, right? Already having these spiritual kind of like intuitive knowings. But, the typical thing for us is that we have a spiritual awakening. We come out of the fog, right? We ascend from the fog, and we come to understand everything, that is to do with the spiritual realm. But the problem with that is that, like, our path is different, right? Our path is different. The people who are hustlers, they hustle, and then they look into spirituality, right? Some people never get there, granted, but like, the kind of exalted, you could say, like form of that kind of person is that like they hustle, they build a life, an excellent life, and then they look into like spirituality, right? But for the spiritual kind of person, right, we come into our spiritual, knowing and our spiritual wisdom early on, but then what must then happen is that we must then learn to build better lives, right? And the take-home message is that there are two, like there are two types of people, like I've described, right? There are also two components to life that you could broadly categorize, right? There's the material, and then there's the spiritual, right? Or the non-physical, right? The spiritual. Both are important, right? You have to understand this. Both are important if you want to become a self-actualized person, if you want to lead a happy life, if you want to find fulfillment, you have to find a way. You have to build on your strength, whether that be physical or spiritual, right? But then you must also build yourself in your weakness area, right? And this is the trap that most spiritual people fall into, that they're like, they get larger than life because of all of like, they learn how to download, they get all of these amazing spiritual insights, but then like, they're still resisting the shit out of like life, physical life, right? And like a lot of these spiritual people potentially could like fall into a trap where like they just lead shitty lives physically. They have all of these amazing spiritual, insights, and like they could explain like the origin of existence to you. They could explain some complex spiritual tidbit to you. Well, I say tidbit, but like they can kind of like condense, these like profound spiritual, these examples of profound spiritual wisdom into like language and like, dazzle you like that, right? But they're leading shitty lives, right? Conversely, the kind of person who's a hustler, they could like, there are some people who just never find a faith. They never find something to believe in. And those people just like become jaded as fuck, and like they never learn to love. They never learn to like give their own lives meaning. So there are failure cases on both sides, right? But I just wanted to like give a bit of perspective for the spiritual people out there. Yes, spiritual knowledge is great. It's your strength. You have your spiritual awakening, and then like you're gifted all of this amazing insight and abilities. To make meaning, honestly, to understand experience, your subjective experience, and also to create meaning for yourself. Another way of saying this is to manifest a kind of, to understand the essence of meaning, right? you can visualize, life however you want to visualize it. You're not tied down by like, typically like the hustlers out there, like they have a very kind of like simplistic view on like the way that life should be. It's all about making money and finding the right person. And like, war is wrong, racism is wrong. All of these simplistic like ideas that are in line with like socially, conditioned values, right? We spiritual people have the capacity to like break away from those and to form our own value systems, right? We are really strong in the thought realm. We can create our own thoughts, and be powerful in that way, right? Ideologically, right? But our problem is that like we must at some point relinquish spirituality and to work on life itself. Recently I've been saying this, and like it's so true. I could, again, as a spiritual person, I could give you like my account on like the meaning of existence and like the universal truths that I deem the most important, or like, or what I think that humanity will one day evolve into, or whatever, whatever it is, like whatever like large issue that you could throw at me, I could probably give you my articulation of it, right? And I feel very like, I feel very kind of like self-righteous about it. But like, if you ask me how to live as a human being in 3D, as you might say, it's fucking hard, man. As a spiritual person, as a dreamer, like I could explain away all, like I could explain all of these amazing concepts to you, but like if you ask me how to live, I can't, like I don't know. Like I suck at living. I can explain the difference between oneness and duality, just picking a random example. Or, the difference between conscious and unconscious in terms of shadow and consciousness and shadow. But like, if you tell me like how to build a business or like how to organize your day, I fucking suck at that shit, or how to like have people skills and talk to people effectively, and like to be assertive, but in a way that's like win-win, like that's an idea that like, personal development gurus like to laud quite a lot. It's like win-win, that kind of thing. If you ask me how to physically produce a result in that sense, I don't fucking know. Like I would fail utterly in front of you, right? And so, as a spiritual person, you're like, what you need to do, your spiritual journey, as it were, is to have your spiritual awakening. Understand all that there is to understand, but then at some point, you need to learn how to live. All of the things that you've always resisted, like making money. Making money is filthy. Marketing your products and services is manipulative and unwholesome. Like learning to, if you're a female, like learning to put on makeup is it's fake, right? Or like as a man, whatever it is, whatever thing you've come to resist, like in a physical sense, like, oh yeah, I don't want to market, or I don't want to sell anything because it's unwholesome, it's manipulative. I don't want to do that stuff, right? It doesn't jive with my value system, with my heart, right? Yeah, but like, you know what? At some point, you're going to be sat with the reality that no one is watching your videos, or no one is listening to your ideas, or no one is appreciating your art, because you haven't mastered these things, right? You have to understand that, like everyone has things that everyone has things that they're kind of liberal in an intellectual sense about, right? Like everyone has something they're very clever about, that they understand very like in a very mechanical sense, and there are other things that that they find very personal, very like guarded against, about, for the spiritual people, for us, it's like we're very liberal about spiritual ideas, like we can tell you everything about like how this person is different from this person, how this perspective is different from this perspective, how some energetic nuances, is important, like the stuff that spiritual people discuss, and like just like waffle about, right? But then like, but when it comes to physical stuff, we're very guarded, you know, like it's like, I don't want to market, I don't want to sell, I don't want to go out there and meet people, like I don't want to do that, like that's like, you know, I don't want to go out and do a prank video on someone, like it's not very nice, you know. Yeah, that's just how we are, right? And like obviously for like the other kind of person, the hustler, it's like they go out and try lots of different things, you know, they're very cheeky, like they're very like, you know, people do prank videos, you know, that's like an example, you know, or they do like these crazy experiments, they make all this crazy art, you know, like when you see artists who like make all this like very like shocking art, you know, you're like, I don't think I like that, you know, as a spiritual person, but like, but you know, that's just them, you know, like some people are just liberal in like in the way that you're liberal when it comes to ideas, they're liberal when it comes to like physical expression and like physical doing things in the physical realm, right? You know, and so and but like, you know, obviously like when it comes to ideas, you know, like they're very guarded about their ideas, you know. When you talk to someone like who is more realistic like that, like they tend to like think you're a weirdo if you deviate even remotely, like even like a smidgen away from like, you know, the like, you know, usual societal values, you know. Like for example, if you were to say to like, you know, a materialistic person, like I think transgender is fine, you know, if you understand where it comes from, you know, most people would be like, okay, you know, I don't think I like, no, nah, you know. Well, maybe that's a bad example. I don't know. Yeah, like, you know, if you have a religious debate with like, you know, a materialistic person, like that's like a minefield, man. Like that's like a, you know, a disaster waiting to happen. But anyway, I'm kind of beating around the bush here. So yeah, you know, my message really in this video is to, you know, the spiritual people out there is, you know, your challenge in life, or rather, you know, the part of your journey that you really need to like, you'll really need to like go through a lot of pain with, I guess. You know, not that it really has to be that way, but like it's a part of the journey that where you have to face your fear, you know, because it's easy, you know, if you're a spiritual person, it's easy like coming up with spiritual ideas and stuff like that. If you ask me like if it was difficult to like do all of the kind of thinking and analyzing that I've done over the years in terms of like spirituality, if you ask me it was hard, no, it wasn't. It was highly enjoyable. It came very easily to me, you know, and like vice versa, like if someone else like, you know, is just really good at like making money or like really good at like being social, you know, making friends or dating, you know, to each their own, right? But like at some point we all have to face our fears and to like really look at our weakness areas, you know, that are holding us back, right? So as a spiritual person, your spiritual path or your journey is initially spiritual awakening, but then like the meat of it is to learn how to fucking run your life properly. You know, to learn how to like make money and be financially independent, you know, to learn how to be socially savvy and to like create like a support network of friends, right? To understand the nuances of social interaction, you know, and understand the difference. There is a fucking difference between friendship and business. And you have to not resist that, you know. That was something that I used to resist, you know, like I used to like really resist like any connection that was kind of like business related, you know, because I thought it was inauthentic, you know, all of that stuff, right? No, like there's just a difference between being friendly with someone and relating them on a humanistic level, on a spiritual level, on an energetic level. But there is also a place for business interaction, you know, where like, you know, or to put it even simpler, you know, like some people you talk to, you know, some interactions you have from a heart level, but some of them are from a head level. You know, there are some people in your life that you need in order for, like to help you make money or to help you learn something or to scratch, you know, to ask for favors and to return the favor. You know, that's just how life is, right? And so, like you know, as a spiritual person, you know, the next step of your journey is not to become more spiritual. You're already motherfucking spiritual, man. You know, once you've spiritually awakened, there's not... Yes, ideas will keep coming to you, you know. I'm not saying, like go the complete opposite direction and like, forego all spirituality. No. It just means, like, at some point you're going to have to realize all of the things you've been resisting physically, you know, like the things I've listed, money, relationships, you know, health, self-defense, you know, these things you're going to have to learn. You know, there's no, like, you're going to have to learn them, otherwise they're going to hold you back, right? It doesn't mean you have to become a master at them, like someone who is naturally good at those things. No, it just means you're going to have to address them at some point, right? That's just the next part of your journey. You know, if you want to live a good life, if you want to help people, if you want to do all of those grandiose things that you've dreamt up, you need to learn how to like handle yourself, man. You know, there's no other way about it, right? So cool. I hope like my message was clear. Like, you know, I had this idea like quite a while ago, and like I'm only making this entry now, but like, yeah, you know. So yeah, all you spiritual people out there, stop dreaming. You know, if I was being abrasive about it, stop fucking dreaming and just fucking pull your finger out your ass and do something in your life. Yeah. I'm doing the same, trust me. I have every empathy for you because I am a spiritual person. Like, shit is not coming easy to me. I don't know the first thing about fucking dealing with other people or making money. Fuck no. But I'm having to learn it anyway, because like otherwise I'm never gonna move forward, right? So cool. I hope that was insightful. I hope that's given you something to think about. You know, I don't mean to like get you down. You know, if there's one other thing that I really believe in is like, you should never be hard on yourself. Be critical, be self-critical, and like sometimes you are hard on yourself in the sense like you're depressed because like you're just like, oh man, I'm useless or whatever it is, right? And you have that egoic struggle within, but like at the end of the day, you can always move forwards, right? You know, at the end of the day, you're still alive, you're still fine, you're still amazing. So keep going at it, right? I wish you the best of luck, you know, as with me. So cool, I hope that was insightful, and I'll catch you guys in the next entry. Peace out.